Anyway,
You worried about that?
it's good for you.
You better drink your chocolate shakers that morning.
Oh, yeah, I have ice cream next week now.
Oh, have an extra scoop.
There needs to be made to both August and the September meeting, and the people present, we have Phil Edwards, and that should be Tony May. And, on, September minutes, you got Phil Edwards, and it should be Tony May, and also Scott Meyer should be added
As not present.
as not present. And on the second sheet, the review of financials, the word minutes was proposed instead of the financials in the motion. So I'll make a motion that we approve these minutes with corrections. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, request to approve a change order for additional funding to the VFW Stellar Façade Repair project due to unforeseen building structure issues.
All right, perfect timing. Our project architect, Jacobs, has joined us, but I can give you a quick overview of what the request is. So,
This one making that, we lost.
Okay.
probably disconnected. So for this particular request, the VFW project is undergoing extensive historic renovation, facade repair for the two buildings that they own on Main Street. And the majority of the funding for the project is coming from the Stellar Communities grant, also known as the MSRP program, Main Street Revitalization Program through the Office of Community and Rural Affairs, OPRA, at the state. During the project, as can sometimes happen when renovating historic buildings like this, it was discovered that there were some structural repairs that needed to be done in order to ensure that the brick does not collapse onto the street. So, as part of it, the project is essentially at a standstill at this moment, pending approval of this change order. And so the change order, of which the supporting documentation is in your packet, or the architect, Pat Jacobs, has given you a line item of everything that the contractor has charged to do the work. And she feels that those are reasonable amounts that they're requesting. So the bottom line is that the total change order was about $29,000. And so as part of the project, if you'll recall, as I said, the vast majority of the money is coming from the grant. If you take a look at, if you could each take this chart in your packet and we can go over this. My understanding, it's towards the back.
It's in color.
All right, so from my recollection as to how this works, the last time we kind of visited this issue was back in April, when we received some additional money that Greenfield had used. But the bottom line is that in looking at the VFW project, the RDC is going to kick in about $11,500, and then the owners, VFW, was going to kick in about $7,800. And if I remember correctly, that money, the RDC money was, contingency money that was put in. So, if I'm doing this math correctly, and if the RDC money, is indeed contingency, as I believe it was, then the additional 29,000 that is needed, you would subtract out the 11,500 that you're already putting forward for the contingency. And then, I believe you'd also subtract out the $5,200 that VFW is going to pay in. And then whatever that resulting figure is, I think when I did the math, it was like $10,000 additional.
Yeah, now you said 5,200, I think it should be 7,800, right?
Yeah, so to clarify, the VFW for the project is putting up $7,800. And they've already paid $2,000. So there's 5,800 that they're still on the hook for. So, are there any questions on that?
So my number is, if we subtract the 7,800 and 11,530, which is 19,330, subtract that from the change order number, and that comes out to $10,091.57. So that's my number.
I think it'll be just, you're close.
Okay.
So if I'm understanding it correctly, again, that that the RDC portion and the owner's portion that was put up with for architectural services and for contingency money, you would take the 29,000, you subtract out the 11,530, and then you would subtract out 5,800 because they've already paid $2,000. And where does that come to? 11,660. Yeah. So what I would do, if you're inclined, is to debate and approve the working order as it states. And the number that's presented that I'm telling you is simply a reflection of the additional amount that we're essentially adding into the budget.
Out of the RDC fund.
Correct. Yeah.
As a VFW, I don't know if they can contribute more, like we split it, or they don't have that and
Sure.
need us to pay for all of it.
Sure. We had a meeting when Pat and I went over the change order request with the contractor. We also met with Pat's colleague, who's been overseeing a lot of the project, Stephen Allen, and then Terry Taft from the VFW was there as well. And the one thing that is not reflected in the change order that's completely separate is that the VFW had requested that drywall be put up in the front of the building when they took the windows out, the doors, or whatever was there originally, because it was getting so there wasn't any temperature control on that. So I want to say it was like $1,700 for the drywall to do that, and we said that we would cover that from the grant money.
Right.
So they have to pay that, and that's over and above what these numbers are.
Right, well, that would wouldn't be considered facade anymore.
Right, that was our logic.
That's a tough question. So I wasn't here, when this passed, so I'm trying to catch up, just based on it.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, so I'm seeing here the total here is 440,000, right, on this colored table here. So is this architecture trio Cause I see a change order here where the balance on that is the original contract sum is $402,000. Am I correct that this architecture trio is the contractor doing all of the 4 improvements here? The VFW, the box garden, the grant administration.
Yes, correct. It's the same architect and same contractor doing all 3 buildings.
Okay. And so this is so the original here was 440, which was, so this is different than the change order that I see here, the 402,000 original contract then. And now it's got a change order of 29,400. So where was the 440 relative to the original contract sum of 402? How did we get to this point?
So for this spreadsheet, the 440,000 includes cost of construction for VFW, cost of construction for Fox Garden. It includes the grant administration by Klein Peter Consulting, and then it includes architectural services. Now, and so that's for the entire project, is $440,260.
Okay, so this one right here, the change order building 0, this guy right here, on the bottom of the second page, says the original contract sum is 402,000. So I'm just trying to figure out what the discrepancy between the 440.
Oh, how did I come up with, where's the 402?
The bottom.
On the sheet, yeah.
I guess what I'm getting at is the original 402 or is the original 440?
That's a good question. Pat, are you able to answer that?
40 was for architectural services. Oh, you just muted her. It's perfect timing. There she's got it.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Okay, yep, I can. So, Adam, the 440,000 included the architectural, or 440 plus included architectural and Mike Klein Peters fees? I think that's what I'm hearing. I can't hear you all very well, so I'm sorry. Then what happened is we got a bid for 402,000 from Advanced Restoration to do the construction. We had to bring that into budget. You had the first change order that was the deduct of 50,140, giving us a new contract amount of 551,860. And this is the only change order that we've had that's an add change order, which is that 29,421.87. Out of that, there's about 1,700 plus that Terry Tab is committed, as I understand, to pay out of this change order. So that makes it your commitment about, let's just say, $2,000 less. So you're about 27.5 plus or minus. Am I thinking right, Adam?
Yes.
And then you have committed to a change or a contingency amount, and I don't know what that amount was. I think, Adam, you have that.
Yeah, that's the actual contingency. When we take a look at these numbers right now, that's what I'm a little bit candidly fuzzy on as to in our column, what was coming from RDC and owners, if that was the money that they were putting up. I thought that was contingency money, if I remember that correctly. I can always go back and look, but yeah, to clarify, and to piggyback on what Pat said, is that the 402,000 was the original bid. that we received from the contractor. And that bid was too high, and so we negotiated a lower amount that got us to $351,060.
Okay, so we went into that 351,860.
Mm-hmm.
And the requirement for the local match was 10%, so 35,000. Right? This is through Oprah.
The local match amount is what's reflected in the RDC column and in the owner's column.
Well, that's what we contributed, but not the requirement. Right?
Yeah, the requirement was,
10%.
I'm trying to remember, was it a 10% requirement?
I mean, that's what the website says. I knew there was a minimum, but I couldn't remember what. Because it's through the, Office of Community and Rural Affairs, their planning grants, right?
Mm-mm.
What was this grant one?
Stellar. This was, yeah, it was part of Stellar. So if I remember correct, I have to get back with you as to what the amount of the local match was for Stellar. Do you remember, Pat, what it was?
You know, I'm having a really hard time hearing you, Adam. I'm sorry.
Pat, can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, do you remember what the local match was for the Stellar program for this facade repair? What percentage?
Oh, gosh. I think our match, if I remember correctly, was like 10%. Let me see if I can find the spreadsheet that Mike Kleinpeter put together. Is that what you have in front of you?
No, I have a spreadsheet that
You put
simplifies a
together?
lot of the complicated numbers.
Let me see if I can find something.
Okay.
So how many change orders have been, I'm seeing 12, 9, so I'm seeing 13 so far, right? Is that about right?
I'll put Pat on that.
Pat, how many change orders have there been thus far? I have 13. Excuse me.
There's only been this change order plus the original one. So this is the second. The first one was to get the contract amount reduced. And then this is the first one. Should say change order 2 at the top.
Okay, the RFIs, can you help me understand what the RFIs are?
Yeah, so there's various things that came up. If you remember, the building was faced in the limestone, and there was a lot of things that we couldn't see. So when we started to take the limestone off, we had a couple of issues that were revealed. We had a beam condition on the right-hand building that needed some additional support. We had some additional cracking of masonry that we have to deal with. And you can see that's what those RFIs are. So what we wanted to do was get a price for each one of those individual questions or issues. And then we just total them all together in one change order. It minimizes the number of change order, but includes all of those items that you've got in front of you today. And I can explain things more if you want me to go over each one of them.
Well, no, I appreciate the willingness. This is a new, this is the first time I've seen this packet, so I'm just trying to catch up before there's a vote on 30 grand.
And Adam, I'm not finding that fee breakdown quickly. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I noticed in going through the change order numbers, there's some that's like you got 2 and you got where's 3 at? You got 1, 2, and then 3 is missing.
I'm not sure. We've only got 2 change orders.
Then you go back, I think, change over 4, it says 4 and 6, so where's 5?
I'm not clear what you're referencing.
Well, on each change order, there's a change order on each packet. And if you start from the beginning, the first one is 1, the second one is 2, and then 3 is missing, and then you got on change order 4, it says 4 and 6. So where is 5? And then you skip
Oh.
2.
Are those referencing RFI number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Yes,
All right, so some of those change order requests, and that's that would be, and you see how it says RFI number 13, RFI 12. That's what those prices are referencing. They're not change orders. What we've done is we've combined all of those items into one change order. That's why I itemized them, and they should track with those RFIs.
okay.
Does that make sense? So if you look at advanced restorations documentation, it'll say request for information number 1 or 4 or, and then we had a response and then they gave us a price for it.
Okay, there was another page here, I hadn't seen it. I think this was transmittal 20, it says, where that was listed.
Oh,
A lot of paperwork.
well, and I'm not, he put, the way Advanced does it, they put a transmittal on everything and it makes it actually challenging to follow. Oh, I'm trying to see, there's some of these that, like for instance, change order request, and forget that language. RFI numbers 4 and 6 response. So what they did is they came to us, they took RFI questions and gave us a price for number 4 and number 6. Okay, and I'm on page 9, I think, of your packet. And that amount for that change order was $58.44.26, and that should track with our change order where we compiled all those.
Unfortunately, our pages aren't numbered. That's what we're trying to catch up to.
Oh,
Well, on the transmittal, pack page that's listed number 20, there's 2 pages of it. And I think the breakdown is in the description below that, if I'm right.
And what each request number and our.
Yeah, they're all.
well, I've got 25 pages of documentation from your, well, it's actually from, I shouldn't say that, it's actually from my compiled change order, which is what I think Adam used in your packet.
So I think what Ed is referring to is this document from Advanced Restoration Contractors from September 8th that has a listing of all the different RFIs, 1, 2, 4, and 6, 8, 11, 12, 13. You see that one?
I'm looking. Let me go to your packet. Maybe that'll make it easier. Sorry about that.
Like page 10.
10 on yours.
I have.
All right. Give me 1 second.
Who's represented by Ms. Pat there. Are they a trustee to the Stellar program, or how do they fit in? Were they hired by us? Were they hired by, how do they fit into this?
So, Architecture Trio, that's our half company.
Yep.
And she was hired by, the town. She's the same architect that's doing Greenfield.
Okay.
And she's paid out of, mostly out of the grant.
It was a competitive process through which I was hired, and I'm paid for through grant dollars. And I see the page you're talking about, sir. I've got it in front of me.
So I think the question was, if I'm understanding it correctly, Ed, is we got RFI number 1, number 2, 3, 4. Are you seeing that those numbers don't jive with what's on Pat's form?
I just been looking through all these change orders that I got in my packet, and there was some missing. That was the confusion. And if you're looking at that transmittal 20, does that explain the break in them here?
Transmittal 20 includes an itemized list of all those RFIs, and an RFI is a request for information. So sometimes they request information and there's no cost associated with it. So it'll have a number. So they might say, what color do you want us to paint the window? And we'll respond to the RFI with green. But there's no cost associated with it. Does that make sense?
So you're saying that the reason 3 is missing, there wasn't a cost to it?
That's correct.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
So the
I think I'm
missing
understanding.
So the missing documents in the packets for the change orders is because there was no cost?
That's correct.
Okay, okay, that makes sense.
So another question, Ms. Pat, what was the, because I'm not seeing the consulting fees here, right? Because the new total project cost that we have, Adam, did you put this together?
Yes.
Okay, so the sheet I have here has total project cost, construction plus consultants. My question was, who's the trustee for the money, which, well, I guess trustee is probably not the best word, but Pat was hired. So your bill, Ms. Pat, is being covered 100% by Stellar, or is this change order inclusive of additional fees to you?
No additional fees for me. Our fees are fixed and our fees are paid for out of the Stellar dollars.
Okay.
There's a whole process for submitting her invoice. Like we have to, it has to be approved by council.
Sure.
And then, time here, then request from the state, those dollars that were approved. And then we wait until we receive those dollars into our bank account before we can pay Pat for architecture trio.
Okay. I was caught up on the fact that it says construction plus consultants. I didn't know if there was additional fees that were incorporated in the plan.
So essentially, we're being asked for $11,660, right? So that's it.
Yes.
Right. That's
Pat,
correct.
is that correct?
I didn't hear the question, I'm
The
sorry.
fee or the dollar amount you're asking from the RDC would be $11,660.
That number is, those numbers come from Adam. Sorry, Adam.
The answer is yes.
Okay,
If the RDC column and the owner's column was contingency built into the project. I'm sorry, I don't, as I look at this again, I don't recall if it was or not. I feel like it was.
I know that we had contingency dollars that were in there, but I don't know if the owners was also contingency. I believe ours is contingency.
I don't think the owners was. For some reason, I don't know why.
Yeah, I can certainly go back and look. I'm sorry, I don't recall.
Yeah, cause that's, I mean, that's a $30,000 to $11,000 swing there. I mean, that's,
So I guess my question is, what kind of dollar amount are you asking for the RDC tonight?
Well, that's a good question and a fair question. Yeah, that's a good question and a fair question. The amount of the change order is 29,000.
Right.
And the RDC.
For the VFW.
For the
alone,
VFW,
right?
right. And I'm sorry this gets complicated because there's a lot of different numbers floating around, going to Fox Garden, VFW from different sources. The bottom line is that it's a $29,000 change order. And the RDC portion of it, which is presumed to be in the blue column, was presumed to be contingency that was built in. Then your contingency is 11,530 is what you agreed to pay. And what the request is to cover all of the rest of it, to cover the 29,000, with the exception of the 1,700 for drywall.
So you're not deducting the owner's portion.
Because we don't know.
Okay.
Because in fairness,
That's contingency.
we have to do research on that, and I can certainly get back to you.
So right now, you're asking for, the change order is 29,421.87, and you're gonna subtract 11,530 from that,
Right,
and that's what you're asking for tonight.
and then also subtract one more thing. The $1,700 drywall that we talked about.
1730.
1730.
I didn't know. So essentially. Oh wait,
Well,
which
it's
that would
actually
come out of
less
that.
than, especially if there's an owner's contingency. So it's 29,000, what have you, minus 11,530, minus $1,730.32. And then if the owners do the contingency, then that's another 7,800 off of that.
That would be another 5,800 off of it, because they've already paid 2,000.
Okay.
Okay,
So what's that mean?
so either they're asking for $9,960 or $27,300,
Which is a solid, I mean, that's.
which are very good. Oh, wait, no, sorry, minus our
that's
11,
two-
sorry,
That's
minus our 1130. Okay, so that'd be. So between essentially $10,000 and 15,870.
that sounds-
That seems like a more reasonable range than. Right?
Correct. So to simplify, if you are inclined to keep the project moving and schedule, what we could do is, you could just simply approve the change order with any additional funds would be picked up by the RDC minus the drywall item. And then in the meantime, afterwards, I can clarify if the RDC column was indeed contingency, and if the owner was contingency as well, or if that was their contribution to the project.
So you're saying for us just to approve all the change orders for the 29,421.87, and the RDC will pick up the difference?
Correct.
Okay, so help me get where you're at. So $29,421.87 is the change order request.
Right.
Minus $11,530. Minus $1,730.32. Minus 2,000.
No, minus 2,000.
That minus 2,000, but everything else is correct.
Okay, so that's it. So that's $16,161.55. Okay, so then if the owners is a contingency, then it would be that minus $7,800.
58.
No,
5,800, they already played through it,
Already.
but that's still a net sum, right? So $7,800.
Right.
So minus 7,800. So the remaining outstanding is $8,361.55.
I thought they're 2,000.
She knows.
You're having great. I thought that 2,000 was already paid with spent. Oh. Because that money was paid up front to,
For the estimates, I think.
actually, isn't it $4,000? Is this $4,000, this $4,000? Because they paid us. So is this 4,000, this $4,000? Because they paid us and I feel like we already used that money because that was part of the initial, they had to have buy-in.
So then plus $2,000. We're adding $2,000 back into the RDC.
I'm wondering if, because they paid us this money, it came into our account. And is this
We paid half. Yeah, the money that they have paid to date
was paid to,
is paid to half.
but
For the
funneled through us, so this $4,000 right here is this one.
No, everything that you see on this chart is accurate from the standpoint of what's coming from the grant from the project, what's coming from the RDC, and what's coming from the owners. And that includes schematic drawings, that includes the final construction drawings, that includes everything. Construction.
Oh, wait, yeah, you're right, it was the 5.
So the only thing that I have to get back to you on is if the RDC money was contingency, that was built in. And what was the owner's money? Was that contingency? Or was that built in? Was that project cost?
So this $4,000 they've already paid, where is that one?
It's already spent.
It was already spent.
It's already spent.
Mhm.
So I added 2,000 back into the ask, so now we're at $10,361. And if the other $5,800 is contingency money, then that 5,800 will come off the 10,300 and make $4,000. But if not, the ask is $10,361.55. Just for the VFW, we haven't moved across the street.
Don't need to.
Yeah, we don't need to deal with anything with Fox Garden. They're,
Yet.
they're unaffected by it. Everything in the change order is related to it.
Yes, for right now, right, but are they,
They're good, they're just waiting on windows. There's no change.
If I understood you, Adam, Fox Garden is complete except the windows and the railing, right?
Correct.
anything else or is that, no, okay, so now we're on the same page. Because Amy and I were under the understanding that they hadn't yet finished Fox Garden, so there could be additional change orders that come as a result of that. So Fox Gardens is finished, and is the Grant Administration Building done?
Well, I wouldn't go so far to say that there would be no contingency for Fox Garden. It's probably not done. It's nearing completion, they just need the windows, but anything's possible until the project is done.
Okay, and then what about Grant Administration Building?
The what?
Grant. That's not, okay, see, again, I
That's-
was here. in 20
Yeah, the grant administration, the grant administration is for the, basically administrating the grant, the Stellar.
Oh,
one.
Grant Administration.
Yeah,
okay.
no building.
Gotcha. Okay. I thought it was administrative building.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
What number are you covering up with now?
So the remaining number then is $10,361.55. And if the owner's money is a contingency, then it would be $5,800 less than that. So let me write this down so we can make this motion. Minus 5,800, then it would be $4,561.50. Good? No, subtracted $5,800 from the remaining, the outstanding balance is $10,000.
Shouldn't they just be able to bring the change order out like it stands without an amount?
That's what I would do.
I just want to make sure for the record that the money was, that we had the correct amount.
Right.
So we have a few missing pieces, but you want to approve the change order
That's correct.
for the amount that it.
We want to approve the change order for the amount.
And it's not gonna be more than $10,361.
Yeah. It is not
It's
going
like
to be,
more than 29.
it's not going to be more than 27,000.
Right.
The one thing we know for sure.
Yeah.
Is that it's 29,000.
Right, well, I feel like if we're gonna put in 27,000 more, that the VFW should
That's
contribute more
So,
also.
yeah, so it's
You know, like-
29,400 is the change order request, and approximately $1,700 of that
Yep.
is what the VFW has agreed to pay. Okay, so anything that is left from that, the RDC is being asked to pay for. What we're saying, and maybe I'm not saying it as clearly as I should, is the 11.5 that I'm showing on the chart is presumed to be contingency money anyway. We prepared for some of this.
Yep, so
We
we've got,
didn't budget 27,000, we budgeted
yeah, so we
11.
got 29,421 minus 1,739. Right, so then subtract that 11,530, yep, so minus 11,530. That brings $16,161. Okay, now what do you take off?
I wouldn't take off anything, I just leave it at that till they find out what,
You're on.
if they're at the most, at your maximum, it's gonna be 16,000.
That's the number I've been trying to get to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, it's okay.
So the max number that we will spend on this in addition to is 16,161.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
That sounds correct to me.
I
Yeah.
took the
It took us a
29,000
long time to get there.
minus
I
what we've already
believe that
pledged.
is correct.
Right, okay, so then,
So it might be 16,000 or it
Could be
might
less,
be 10,000.
could be less.
So Adam, all you're interested now is for us to agree to pay the change order
Correct.
and get it started.
Correct.
And we don't have to say a dollar amount.
No,
All we need is the motion.
Uh,
All we need is the motion for the change order.
And then,
And then that obligates us to pay somewhere between $10,000 and $16,000.
Alright.
Which I feel like is a much smaller range than what we started.
It is. It
now,
is.
now, is it, yeah.
okay,
So is this coming out of our budget or is this coming out of?
I think that's all right facade.
That's that's the next question I have. Is where are we gonna pay that from?
well, I want to be clear on something.
It's October.
The non-committed available funds that you have available, which is extremely conservative because it's not even taking into account revenue, is 1.23 million. For this.
Y'all are sitting pretty.
Yeah. It does.
So,
It's not gonna hurt.
so that's how much the RDC has. Your account right now is at 2.3 million. So,
The question though would be, would it make sense to take it out of our RDC facade repair program because it's October? And we're not gonna use all those funds, not that they go anywhere, but like maybe it just makes sense to, since this is a facade project, to use our 2022 facade project dollars for this, or does it just not matter? Because we can always move our facade
that's up
project
to
money
you,
back
that's
over,
up to
right?
you all. Sure, that's up to you all. My opinion would be that, given that you have 1.2 million to play with,
so.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the change orders that, Arch Trio has presented us for well, I'll just leave it like that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You did
I mean,
big work.
It's a good discussion, and
Big
my
work.
apologies for not, for being a little fuzzy on, how we got to some of these numbers.
You're on the hook.
I think about so.
Well, my fault.
But you can get that stuff. to you.
I can
You know,
hear you.
you
I
got
just
them.
thought of-
And I will, because I want my own mind to be refreshed on that as well.
Okay, we're gonna review finances. I'll make a motion that the financials be approved as written.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, then our invoice from Chrome for $3,500.
Make a motion that we approve that, invoice for Chrome.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Do we have any public comments?
I have a question.
Please come to the microphone, state your name and address and ask your question, ma'am.
Your face is priceless.
You have 5 minutes.
Becky Davis, 318 North Middle Street. I just want to know where I can get a list of what the RDC money can be spent on. You guys have all this money, we have none. We have needs, you know?
That's
We want,
criteria.
so I would like to see this and exactly what the RDC money can be spent.
You cannot take.
I'm not trying to take up all this.
Well, I think we
My borough something.
since Alex is here, I think we can try to answer that question right now, is that, Alex, my understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the money that's available, with the RDC is meant for any sort of, capital, first and foremost, any capital improvements that benefit the TIF district. Roads,
Correct.
sewer, water, that's the primary,
To benefit what,
to
just the
benefit,
district?
to benefit the TIF district.
That's correct. Yeah, since the money comes from TIF revenues, it doesn't necessarily have to be inside of the TIF district, but it needs to have a straight face connection and benefit to the TIF district. And like Adam said, it needs to be a capital project, which means, for example, you could use TIF funds to build a new park inside the TIF district, but you cannot use TIF funds to maintain that park after it's constructed.
So it could be used for streets, sidewalks?
Yes, yes,
Sewer,
yes.
The improvement of those streets
in
or
the
the,
TIF area.
Improvement of.
Yeah, and
streets.
those are all capital projects, streets, sidewalks, everything you just listed, whether new streets or improvement, repair, those types of things are capital projects that I think that's what communities all over the state use TIF dollars for regularly.
Okay.
You're not gonna get free sidewalks.
We might. Did I hear him say parks?
Yes.
To build a park, but they can't maintain it.
Correct. Yeah, there was actually an Indiana Supreme Court case on that, a handful of years ago. And a community was using TIF dollars for lawn mowing and maintenance of the park. And the court said, no, you can build it, but then you've got to find other municipal funds to maintain and upkeep it.
And Alex, since we're on that subject, can TIF funding also be used for equipment for public safety that benefits of TIF? I thought the answer is yes, right?
I believe that there is a way to make that happen, but it is more complicated than your typical TIF project, your capital, your TIF fund. So that's getting into Buzz Crone and Dennis Otten land on the specifics. So, but I think at least I'm aware of communities that have done that. How they get there to connect all the legal dots is something that if the town's interested in looking at that, I think we get a hold of Buzz and say, hey, how do you do this? Because if someone's done it, Buzz has, and he would be able to work through that.
Just for the exercise, could we get something from him of what popular uses are in other municipalities and what they use creative TIF funding for?
Yeah, he may have it. There may also be a lot, I bet on the DLGF, the Department of Local Government Finance, on their website. I bet they may have some canned resources. I know they've got a lot of information about TIF, what it is, what it's used for, where it comes from. Looping back to the public safety vehicle piece, remembering one instance that I was involved in, and the way it's you use TIF dollars to fund that indirectly. So if in the budget process, you need 3 new police cruisers at $100,000 each when they're all equipped out and ready to go. So there's $300,000. You also have in your budget streets that you need to pay for, right? So you figure out a way to move some of the regular budget items off of the general fund and into TIF funds to free up the capital for the public safety vehicles. So a lot of it, it's a accounting exercise. And so long as you, the use of the TIF funds are tied to, again, those capital projects that benefit the TIF districts, you can move those over and use those on those otherwise general fund projects to allow you to do other things, salaries, hire people, police cars.
What about the schools? And like support, like, is there a way to support the school districts or projects that they are doing with any of that money?
I don't believe so, at least not directly, right? Because they are their own taxing entity. They have the power of the tax, and they can levy and do things. And you've seen that in your community over the last couple of years with at the ballot box. So I don't believe that, Fortville could chip in, $150,000 to go
Like, or
towards.
something like that, like, they're like looking at building a road that goes like around and through the schools. Is that a road that, would be something?
So if it's a town road, and it would be for a public benefit in the town, and that road would be in or reasonably linked to a benefit to a TIF district, then I think we could probably get there with sidewalks, roads, those types of capital projects. Certainly when communities use TIF funds to extend sewer and water infrastructure that would run out to a school or whatnot. I mean, it's benefiting the TIF district, allowing more economic growth because you're providing the infrastructure that would provide water, sewer, roads, trails, sidewalks for future development. So that's how most communities kind of extend the use of the dollars beyond the boundaries of the TIF district, but still maintain that benefit that's required by law. Benefit to the TIF district.
Because Main Street's like a pretty snazzy, another big
So
problem.
you could use TIF dollars to put in like a splash park, but it wouldn't have to be put in like the TIF district. It could be installed outside the TIF district, but using TIF dollars.
If you can make, and Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you can make the case that it benefits the
District. Okay.
Which it would, like, for money spent.
That's interesting.
So our police officers patrol the TIF district, so can we use part of this money for? To help us keep the
I don't think so, because that's a salary.
Yeah, it's not a capital project. So the starting point for all of this needs to be some sort of capital project. So
So
roads, street,
Buy the equipment.
Like the apartments that we're getting ready to do, with that's a capital project, right? That we can say, well, maybe we need another.
they pay the fund.
we just have to extend the geography of the TIF district, which we'll have to
Which
do.
we're
to get
doing that
the
anyway.
abatement.
Yeah, we're doing that anyway.
right.
I think out of all the different commitments that have been made over the years by the RDC, the one that is a perfect match with what the intent of the TIF district is and the funding that's associated with it is the local match that's being put down for the Broadway redesign. Because we're using these TIF dollars for capital, for physical things going in the ground, and we're actually leveraging those funds because it's the 20% that allows us to get the remainder of the grant money from INVOICES. So that's a really good example. I think and that's probably the clearest example out of all the different commitments that we have of how those funds are supposed to be used. But we can certainly get you some more information, and it'll be good for everybody to know.
Yeah, I'm almost positive because I've seen it in the past. It's just been a while that Buzz has kind of a presentation about TIF dollars that he's given at, it used to be IACT, it's AIM now, those types of conferences. So that's out there, and between Adam and maybe we can track something down, circulate it to the RDC. And I hear some familiar council voices in the public there, and so we'll get to the council too.
Yeah, there's a 67-page packet on the DLGF website. Al, he emailed it. There's pretty good breakup of that. It's on.
All right, any more public comments? Anyone? Okay, let's move to staff comments.
Nothing for me other than a little follow-up, and we'll get you the clarity on the contingency funding for that. If there's anything else that I need to mention, or if there's any questions from you.
So you're gonna give us a dollar figure that we're actually committed to?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Great. Board comments.
I passed Studio 309 yesterday. There was a lot of people out there working. It's coming along pretty nice. That was the last time I checked on.
I think I saw that they were saying the Hardy board was going up.
Yeah, they taped off and plastic wrap up and stuff. And they were working out there. It's looking pretty good.
They were asking for people to suggest color. They're working on.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Adam, is there any input on the Stat Street, I don't know the address, crossing the
The
Methodist?
funeral home.
The funeral home, is there anything going on there?
No. The answer is no, not at this time. They still want to do the project. They're working on some other projects, and they've been doing a lot of traveling, but
I have a question about that. We approved their facade coverage money prior to changing our rules where they have to make progress in a year. Do those rules apply to them or not?
Grandfather.
I don't know that it's
well,
fair. I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
so generally speaking, when you approve a project, whether it's issuing a permit, approving the funding, you give the entity that gets approved gets the benefit and also the restrictions of the ordinances that are in place and the standards that are in place at that time. And so that's a long way to say what someone already said, grandfathered. So they would be grandfathered into the prior standards.
That's what I was assuming, but I mean,
Yeah, no, it's a good
I don't know
question.
if there's any point where we don't have to continue to hear earmark those dollars for them.
If they're not performing, I mean, you don't, it doesn't just, they don't get them forever, right? So if it's not moving forward, then I think it's fair to pull.
So if I can switch that conversation the other way, we gave them $15,000, right? You're talking about the 1.4 staff.
Yes.
If I remember correctly, when they came in here, they were looking for a much larger number. Have we thought about inviting them back in towards the end of our calendar? And at the time we talked to them, we said, if you came at the end of the year, we might be able to give you more money. We just kept it a small chunk because of our conservatism to the end in respect to our budget. Have we considered reaching out to them and getting an update and revisiting that initial allocation? If it made the project move forward?
I don't think we want to.
My understanding is they're working on other projects in other states. So if that's the case, it's not, the project is not on hold due to finances, it's on hold due to their priorities and commitments. So if that's the case, then, I mean,
I mean.
I don't know that it would make sense to,
Yeah.
I mean, or even invite them to take.
I don't think we should solicit somebody to come in like in that case, well, any case.
We got put on the back burner.
Well, and that's my point, right? So the town got put on the back. And, you know, the building's still sitting.
Right.
And so even though they have this, we can't make them sell, right? But, you know, they have quiet enjoyment, all that, but, you know, why should we be on the back burner? We have the budget, we have the means. If there was an enticement to be had with getting closer to what the original ask was, and maybe we wouldn't be on the back burner.
I think if it were a financial strain that was causing us to be on the back burner, it would be different,
Yeah,
but that is not. the
They would be
case.
asking us to come back.
Yeah, my advice would be that the amount pledged is small in the grand scheme of your budget. And that, for example, if it was, and you've allocated, you basically pledged $18,500, or, no, I'm sorry, $15,000 to the funeral home. If we're talking about 1.5 million, that's a much different.
That's what I'm saying. It's not, we didn't come anywhere close to what the original ask was.
Well, but even still, it's, and again, just my advice is that it's a relatively small amount that was pledged. And not that it's being wasted by any stretch, but, my advice would be to do the one for now, got a little more time, but point well taken.
Any other board comments? Would you like to make a motion, Mr. Ed?
Did we approve the buzz invoice?
Yes,
we
we did.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:35.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Alex.
I met you guys then, too.
I
I'll be honest, that was 100% my mistake. Sorry.
Well, I didn't understand either.